Charlotte, age 35, lives in Rochester, Michigan, and is a mom of 3. Her children's ages 5, 3, and 1 years old. Charlotte is a trained social worker who works full-time for a health insurance company. She has an additional contractual job working about 10 hours a month doing case management. Her husband works full-time at a clinic for autistic children as a board-certified behavior analyst. And she writes, "Our household income is $165,000, and we pay more money on childcare than we do our mortgage." Charlotte and her husband both work more than full-time to support their family of 5, and childcare is their single biggest expense. And if you were to ask pretty much any American with young children what their number one household expense is, you'll hear the same answer almost every time: childcare. Each family has to try and find its own way to manage, and some parents are pushed out of the workforce because the cost is just too great and pretty much negates any income that they could possibly earn, all while being forced to be away from their children. Others work jobs that they wouldn't take otherwise, or hold down multiple jobs just in order to meet their family's needs. Now, this family that we are talking about has an annual household income of $165,000 with a weekly take-home pay of $2,200. They face significant childcare costs with weekly expenses of $500. Their childcare plan includes their 5-year-old attending public kindergarten, with Charlotte able to meet her daughter at the bus stop. The 2 younger children attend daycare 4 days a week and are cared for by their grandmother for 1 day a week. And they switched daycare centers after a traumatic incident with their daughter, and now have the added burden of a commute between 20 and 30 minutes to the new center. The family's work arrangements are chaotic, with both parents having to juggle work schedules and childcare responsibilities, and they often need to coordinate switching cars to manage pickups and drop-offs, and both parents sometimes work in the evenings. And despite their advanced degrees, they struggle to save money due to high childcare expenses and consistently just feel overwhelmed, mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially. Yet, when they had their 3rd child, they hired an au pair and tried to afford the added expense, but it didn't work out. And they soon quickly realized that they really couldn't afford the nanny rates or the additional high costs for babysitting. So they ended up having to pull one child from daycare due to financial constraints, when one parent was ultimately just briefly unemployed. Now, to this day, the family desires to save more money, improve their financial situation, and explore opportunities for career development. And they believe that policy changes like universal pre-K and additional funding for childcare workers could be beneficial. But they also mention the challenges of student loan payments starting back up again, alongside childcare costs, which can be financially burdensome as well. They feel unsupported as parents in this country and continue to face difficulties in accessing federal benefits due to their above average combined family income level. And this is crazy. Honestly, I don't know any more of the details besides what I shared with you, but also their childcare costs being more than their mortgage could have a lot of varying factors here, with potentially where they live, what state or even city or zip code, or the hyper local market that they live in this country, as well as when did they purchase the home. For instance, what was the price of the home? What was the interest rate? What is their credit score or their credit score at the time? All of these factors come into play before we even begin to discuss the added cost of homeowners insurance and flood insurance and wind coverage riders and roof replacements to stay insured, the whole 9. So needless to say, just from looking from 30,000 feet, surface level here, or barely just scratching the surface, $165,000 does seem like a relatively reasonable amount of money and income for a family to earn that theoretically should be able to maintain, and maybe perhaps they can. However, comparing their childcare costs to their mortgage, that says a lot, because mortgages and mortgage payment totals are on the rise today. Speaking of which, we're actually coming due for the complete end of mortgage forbearance. And I don't think there's going to be any more extensions provided or extended to some folks out there. And we are possibly walking into one of the biggest housing market crises yet, where all of these folks who were allowed to skip out on mortgage payments or defer or delay or postpone mortgage payments for the last couple years or more, 3 years or more, the bill is about to come due. Now, granted, there may be opportunities for folks to restructure and add the mortgage payments back onto the end, or even refinance, so to speak, mortgage loan modification that would then allow them to take a 30-year mortgage to 40 years or even longer, maybe. This is going to potentially cause some serious problems and shake things up a bit. And odds are likely we're going to see some folks in some extremely tough and strenuating financial circumstances, and likely see some distress sales and a rise in foreclosures and evictions. From Fortune, Finance, and Recession, the recent rise in unemployment to 3.9% is approaching a critical threshold created by former Federal Reserve economist Claudia Sahm, known as the Sahm Rule. This rule predicts recessions when the 3-month moving average of the unemployment rate moves by 0.5 percentage point or more compared to its low over the previous year. The lowest unemployment rate in the past year was 3.4%, and the rate in October reached 3.9%, marking the highest rate this year. And despite the increase in joblessness, the Sahm Rule has not triggered or reached the tipping point yet. But recently, Claudia Sahm, who developed the rule, has expressed concerns about its impact and expressed a desire to see it tested very, very soon. Now, depending on what media outlet or mainstream media you consume or watch on a regular basis or listen to, one side versus the other is going to tell you that unemployment is at a record low, job creation is at a record high, the economy is doing well, we have nothing to worry about, we've avoided a recession, we are going to have a soft landing, yada, 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 yada. Lip service, word salad, obviously moving into the tail end of this administration and looking to retain and gain votes for re-election, you got to tell the people what they want to hear. Now, the truth of the matter is that things are a lot worse than they really want you to believe. Now, besides the problems with the banks and the problems globally and the problems that we face here socially, and pretty much every single problem that is out there that you can think of, and quite possibly some that you're not even aware of yet, are all going to have a huge impact on the overall economy, the overall employment market, consumer sentiment, the banking industry, loans, lending, underwriting. We are in store for likely the beginning of the biggest shit show that we have ever seen so far. And we've seen quite a few shit shows so far, but I don't mean to say shit a lot, but shit's about to hit the fan. A lot of shit's going to be hitting the fan. And as far as getting ready and getting prepared, this is going to be a challenging and trying time that it's going to put a lot of people to the test. And additionally, today I was reading and researching for future videos, and I came across some very interesting information published by a well-known banking column. And it essentially breaks down the ways that the rich are avoiding these pitfalls, the same money mismanagement and poor financial education challenges that can enhance the cash-strapped and depleted savings, paycheck to paycheck, lower income and middle class, who often fall victim to that place obstructions in front of them and stifle their prospects of achieving financial success and building wealth. Needless to say, as we venture into this uncharted territory of extremely difficult financial circumstances, many of which none of us have experienced in our lifetime yet. This is going to be very interesting for Gen Z and millennials. It's going to be, unfortunately, a grim reminder for some older generations or more, seasoned folks out there, experienced folks out there. But at the end of the day, the same rules pretty much apply. And the rich and the wealthy are definitely going to have a much easier time and a better advantage, increasing the wealth gap, this K-shaped recovery, whatever term you want to use, a term or a strategy that I expressed to you guys last year on a video about weathering the storm and insulating yourself from inflation and recession and job loss and financial challenges. We are about to get into it, folks. And this is not, I don't think, like me just trying to scare you or promote fear or panic or fear monger or anything like that. I'm just being real. We are about to walk into a financial and economic and monetary fight, okay? And those who have the biggest, baddest, strongest weapons essentially will have the better chance of winning this fight. And those weapons are going to be financially backed weapons. And one of the things I was thinking about, I wanted to share with you guys, was the fact that you have to, in order to at least potentially have a chance at succeeding here and winning the battles and winning the war, would be you have to speak the language, right? So it'd be no different than traveling abroad to another country and not speaking the language. Odds are you're not going to get very far. And these are the things that we need to be discussing on a regular basis in a simple and easy format for everyone to understand, in a forum where you can ask questions and get answers. Because if you don't speak the same language in the banking industry, then no different than being a foreigner in another country that no one understands, you're not going to get very far. So just wanted to put that out there. But either way, these middle-class individuals often make financial decisions that impede their path to wealth, and these include overspending, accumulating debt, maintaining unnecessary memberships and subscriptions, investing in depreciating assets, financially supporting adult children, being overly frugal, and succumbing to lifestyle inflation. Now, as we go down this list here, we've got overspending, which that's pretty much a norm, okay? It's easier to overspend now because of the rise in prices and inflation, and the expenses and costs can seriously and easily quickly get away from you. Accumulating debt, again, another easy one to do with rising interest rates and a lot of folks swiping credit cards and charging as much as they can, and also not necessarily having to responsibly maintain the debt that they accumulate because of deferred payments, stimulus program packages, forbearance, renter protection, whatever it may be, student loan debt forgiveness or student loan debt repayment being paused. These are debt accumulation, or this is debt accumulation that a lot of folks kind of forgot that they had, and they're about to be reminded in a very, very painful way of what debt really is. So accumulating debt is terrible. The debt that's been accumulated, but continuously accumulating debt, should be avoided in most instances. Maintaining unnecessary memberships and subscriptions. Look, it happens to the best of us. Look at your credit card statement, look at your bank statement, see what transactions are happening every month, track those transactions and say, where are these coming from? Where are these going? You're going to find some memberships and some subscriptions that you really don't need, or at least you could downgrade to a lower cost every month, reducing your monthly budget and your monthly overhead, saving you some money. Investing in depreciating assets is an interesting way to phrase it, because I don't really consider a depreciating an asset an investment. For instance, granted, there could be, investments in stock market or real estate or cryptocurrency or whatever it may be, fine art that may even, or wine and bourbon. Now you can invest in that. You can pretty much invest in anything, but investing in depreciating assets, that's an interesting one. But I guess that just kind of changes and fluctuates with the economy, because typically automobiles would be a depreciating asset. But if you were to invest in an automobile back in 2020, early 2021, it was actually appreciating because of what people were paying for them based on the limitations and supply chain shortages and pent up demand. But now buying pretty much any vehicle for the most part would be investing in a depreciating asset, unless it's a special one-off, limited production run, limited allocation vehicle. But even then, odds are you're going to pay well over MSRP sticker what it's worth just to get your hands on it. And then that, much like anything else, is only going to be worth what someone else is willing to pay for it. Financially supporting adult children, all I can say is you got to get those kids to go to work, okay? Being overly frugal, I didn't write this, I'm just reading what they wrote. But more importantly, the succumbing to lifestyle inflation, that's an easy one to do. A lot of folks, they make more money, they end up spending more money, and it doesn't really help them or benefit them in any way whatsoever. Again, these are things that they just don't teach you in school. Like and subscribe for more financial and money tips, strategy, analysis, and speculation. Simple and easy to digest content that is loaded with value and will help you get better prepared. Thanks for watching. This is Kevin 247.
I can tell you my problems, meditating my silence. But I keep pushing my pen, rotating my stylus. Brokenness feeling like sin, now no breath, low dollar. Used to be left on red, now all the girls go holler. Now all the girls go follow. All the fake friends